Hello and good evening. This is your boy Vaughn B, and this is the UN podcast. Today I am going solo. Thought I'd talk a little bit about the Kathleen. Read off some articles about Kathleen Kennedy, and you know what? I'm trying to get myself to even be remotely not excited or not even reading really emotional about the person who basically destroyed Star Wars because I stopped really caring about Star Wars after The Last Jedi. Because you got all the books, and so the movies could suck. I stopped really caring about what they were doing because they weren't doing anything to appeal to their customers. Keep saying that a lot, but the reality that's what it was. They're trying to give appeal to some audience that never existed. And even in the end, she couldn't even admit that maybe she was incorrect. After the failing movie, she's actually, there was an article on it. There's actually quite a few. So let's look at a couple of them, see what they say. Share my screen. All right. All right. All right. Kathleen Kennedy admits Star Wars films are on hold as she exits Lucasfilm. Kathleen Kennedy confirmed that what many expected, most upcoming Star Wars films are effectively paused as Lucasfilm transitions to new leadership under Dave Filoni and Llewyn Brenham. Sorry about that. In a wide-ranging interview with Deadline, it's like pretty long. Huh. All right, no, she made no mention of all of Daisy Ridley's new Jedi Order movie. Thank God, because they basically was going to do what they've been constantly doing is taking Luke Skywalker stories and even either having Ahsoka do it, and apparently they were going to go with try to get Ray to do it, and it's like I don't know, it's is most Star Wars fans don't care. It's like some people are talking about this because it is news, but overall, just based on this, at least my algorithm, it's like it's kind of some people talked about it. It did a little bit, had some discussions, but for the most part, is kind of like whatever. It's hard to, it's hard to once you get over the disappointment and you reach apathy, it's kind of hard to be one way or the other about this. So, when asked directly about the status of various Star Wars films tied to big filmmakers, Kennedy was blunt. James Mangold Star movie written by Bo Williams is on hold despite of what she called an incredible script. She said that about a lot of stuff. And man, what the heavens misuse. It breaks the mold. Mangold recently signed a huge deal with Paramount. So that's he's probably gonna be too busy to do anything with Star Wars. She's confirmed that Steven Soderbergh project written by Scott Burns involving Adam Drivers likewise on the back burner. Uh, Gotta tread a bit carefully here. Jim Mangold and Bo Williams wrote an incredible script, and it's definitely breaking the mold, and it's on hold. Taika Waititi, heard that was canceled. It's turning a script that Canada's is hilarious and great, but she stressed that it's no longer her decision to move it forward. And given how far his star has fallen since this was announced, I seriously doubt they're going to be making that movie. I think that Donald Glover, kind of same thing. is even though Solo failed, he kind of worked as a young sorry. He kind of worked as a jeez, I'm drawing a blank. Um Lando Calrissian. He kind of worked. If they would actually like there is a series of books of when Han Solo was younger and when Lando was younger and when he had the Millennium Falcon and how he got it. So that would have been interesting if they would have went that route. Just like with most of the stuff, if they would have just did the books, I don't know why they just didn't. At least until they got a better understanding of Star Wars, they should have just um what they should have done was recast Han, Luke, and Leia so that they can start as 20-year-olds. With Luke and Leia like being 19 and Han being like 25. So you could have cast people of that age. And then you would have and start with like take some of the stories. You could have Heir to the Empire. You could have did Truce at Baccarat, which would have been interesting because then you could have it would have been a story that most people probably would not have known, and then sorry, then you could have I don't know told a story that most people wouldn't have known. Then you could adapted the rest other stuff, and then you would have had another 10, 20 years of being able to tell stories. And because those books like they have established characters, some of which you kind of have an idea what they look like, some of which you could have fudged, so you could have added your diverse stuff to that. It's like they would have been third tier characters, so folks probably wouldn't have had as much of an issue with some of the stuff that you would have done. But then, I think that would have been kind of playing it smart. And Kathleen Kennedy didn't strike me as a person who operated that way. Ryan Johnson, and he's already disputed this particular fact. So once he made the Netflix deal, went off to start doing Lives Out films. It occupied a huge amount of his time. Another thing happened here. I do believe he got spooked by the online negativity. Ryan Johnson immediately stated that no, he was not spooked and doesn't have any idea what she's talking about. It's like she just keeps making excuses for her failings. So even when she could have did something that would have maybe got the fan base to at least look in the direction of Star Wars again, she still couldn't do it. Even on the way out, she just had to stick it to the fan base. Steven Kinberg trilogy is still alive. I think this one, no, like was it the Mango one? That was the one that was. I think it was the Old Republic. So this one, Fortress Presume, Dave Filoni are much on board with Kinberg's direction, which could push Star Wars theatrical plans well into the 2030s. Which at that point, the little buzz that you have, especially after Grogu, if Grogu and the Mandalorian flops, and this Starfighter, if that flops too, Star Wars is completely done. Like those movies will have to be spectacular to even get anybody back to even caring, because you had an opportunity to do so when you did the second season of The Mandalorian and you had Luke showed up. Everybody was so excited about that happening. And the folks at Lucasfilm couldn't even wait the entire weekend before coming out and trashing the fans over liking what was going on. And then you got rid of Gina Carano. And then it just was thing after thing after thing. So yeah. Is it really the new Jedi Order? Again, those are stories that are for Luke Skywalker, not whatever they would have done. It would have been the new Jedi Order, basically in name only. So who knows what they would have meant? Because the universe that they have created, it like makes zero sense, and how you can factor those books in, because those books are with Luke Skywalker trying to reestablish the Jedi Order, and the Republic was new. They still had remnants of the Empire. So there was all of those things of those books. So you can't even tell those stories because it doesn't work with Ray. So you'd have to create uh sorry. You'd have to create your own thing, and they've proven that they just can't do that from the books that they've made, which makes like I tried one, it wasn't that good. Actually, no, I tried more than one. I tried uh Tarkin, that was good, but that was written by one of the old school writers. And the Darth Vader and Emperor book, that was good. It actually gave a pretty good insight to how terrifying like Darth Vader was, because at the when this book takes place, Darth Vader is just this mysterious figure that's standing next to the Emperor, and nobody really knows anything about him. And it is the beginning of a bunch of little rebellions here and there, and he was going around kind of squashing them. And the method and the terror that he created doing so was actually, yeah. So those books are pretty good. But look, the ones that dealt with the sequel universe, when they get into that, those were just terrible, terribly written characters. No new characters created. I mean, they created new characters, nothing anybody would ever even remotely care about. A clean handoff to. I was looking at somebody who was talking about this. I think it was Ryan Kennel, and there was on Friday Night Tights, and basically pointed out, which everybody probably should know, is that he's had directive, like creative control for a while now. He approved a bunch of stuff that came out that people did not like. And he has this fixation for his own characters that he created, that is like he loves Ahsoka. Like I think George Lucas wanted him to get rid of Ahsoka because she doesn't factor into the goings on in the Star Wars universe. So it makes no sense for him to shoehorn her into all of these places where she just wasn't there. But he's gonna try, and he tried very, very hard to do so. And the only way that he could possibly do is to shove Luke Skywalker to the side and somehow try to make it seem like it's Ahsoka who was doing that. And the like when you with the Ahsoka TV show, it's another thing that was pointed out, was the Force Ghost, instead of helping out his own children, the Force Ghost of Anakin Skywalker was helping Ahsoka. It's like, why would it like it makes no sense. Even going to another universe to hang out with Ahsoka instead of helping out his children. Which, but if you got the mindset of the characters that you've created the most important in the world, you would do stuff like that. So, I think it's another article I saw. So yeah, this was on that Park Place. I tried to look up the one that was on Deadline, but I have a ad blocker, and Deadline, Variety, and the Hollywood Reporter really does not like my ad blocker. So, okay. February 5th deadline, rather than acknowledge the fractured state of the franchise she leaves behind, repeatedly minimizes criticism, dismisses dissent as fringe, and insisted she would change nothing about decisions that led to Lucasfilm to its current position. When discussing the lows of her time running Lucasfilm, Kennedy did not point to the lack of cohesive sequel trilogy plan. Keep in mind, one of her first statements at the beginning was like, when things were started to go left a little bit, her excuse was that there was like Star Wars didn't have any source material for her to pull from, which is crazy considering how George Lucas gave her a treatment for 3 movies, which she's ignored. And there are literally hundreds of books in the Legend universe that they eventually started pulling pieces from to fold it into the stuff that they were doing. So there was hundreds of books, comic books, uh, fan stuff, just like all kind of things, video games, everything that they could have pulled from, and she did not want to do any of that. So the lows are that you've got a very, very small percentage of the fan base that has enormous expectations, and basically they want to continue to see pretty much the same thing. Yeah, if I like Burger King, when I go into Burger King, I want the Whopper to taste like the Whopper. I don't want it to taste like something else. So that's a stupid statement. So of course your customers would like the thing that they want to give you money for. And then you give them something that they don't want, they will voice their opinion on that. I don't know why you would be shocked by that particular fact. This person is a moron. Frame here. This is years of sustained backlash to an issue caused by an allegedly tiny, unreasonable subset of fans, a claim that stands in stark contrast to declining box office confidence, streaming attrition, and the brand's increasingly diminished presence in pop culture. Yeah, is whenever they put out the toys or whatever, the only thing anybody buys is anything tied to the original sequel. I mean, the original movies and the prequels. Anything that they created, nobody wants. Nobody wants the books. Nobody wanted the comic books they made. Nobody wanted the characters they made. Nothing. And, and if you if you're not going to do that, then framing should continue. And if you're not going to do that, then going in that you're going to disappoint them. I'm not sure there's anything you can do about that because you can't please everybody. You didn't please anybody. The Rise of the Skywalker, nobody liked that. The the few people that you managed to create with the Last Jedi did not like the Rise of Skywalker. The original fan base did not like the Rise of Skywalker. So you didn't change. You like again, this person is a moron. There's anything about I said that she exits Lucasfilm. She eliminated entirely one definitive statement. I wouldn't do that any differently, and I wouldn't change anything that we've done over years. You took one of the greatest IPs ever created and completely destroyed it. And then you have the nerve to look at it and see what you did. See how couldn't you didn't grow anything. You didn't grow any characters, you didn't grow anything. And you look at that and somehow you can tell yourself that no, we will do the same thing again. Right. You had the opportunity to make a killing with the Grogu stuff when it was Baby Yoda, but you didn't uh, um, foresee that like that character could be breakout one, and when it did, when it was obvious that it was a breakout character, you were slow to get anything out to take advantage of that, and then afterwards you put it in you used that character so much that people got tired of it. So you, every decision that you made was dumb, and it didn't benefit you at all. And how can you say that you wouldn't change anything? It's kind of like when was it Kamala Harris when she was on the View, just to get a little political, given how people felt about Biden, to go and tell everyone that she would do nothing differently. Yeah, that was just as dumb as this. The declaration comes after more than a decade marked by inconsistent storytelling, abandoned creative directions, and a sequel trilogy that famously lacked a unified vision. Yet Kennedy insists on no aspect of her leadership deserves reconsideration because she seems to lack the ability to take accountability for anything. She elaborated further, understanding why people may not may like certain things more than others, but that's not going to change why I decided to do certain things and why I decided to work with people that we worked with. Yeah, because you're a moron. In other words, fan response is irrelevant. Decisions were made. Those decisions are beyond critique. Invoking George Lucas to deflect criticism. All you can do is try to tell good stories and try to stick to the essence of what George created, which you did not do. He embedded incredible values into Star Wars. You didn't listen to him. And the whole idea of hope and fun and entertainment. Your your movies did not have any hope. They were not very entertaining nor fun. Impatience is unmistakable. Those who reject the current direction of Star Wars are not merely just dissatisfied customers, but people who have fundamentally misunderstood the franchise's values. Sure. Okay. None of this was new. Kennedy spent years attributing backlash to loud, minor subsections of the fan base, online negativity on unrealistic expectations. You telling a good story is not an unrealistic expectation. What is notable is with the timing. This is opportunity for reflection. Instead, Kennedy doubled down. Nothing about how this person is being acting for the last 10 years would tell me that she is even capable of doing that. She prepares to leave Lucasfilm. She offered no acknowledgement of missteps, no lessons learned, no indication that leadership bears any responsibility for the current state of Star Wars. The fault, once again, according to Kathleen Kennedy, lies with the Star Wars fans. If this interview is meant to define Kennedy's legacy, it makes one thing abundantly clear. She does not believe that the audience was ever owed accountability. She's incapable of doing so. For fans hoping her departure would signal a philosophical reset at Lucasfilm, no, because they didn't get rid of any of the people. So it's not just her making the decisions. It is all the people who worked there, the ones who crapped all over the biggest Star Wars YouTuber less than 24 hours after him being emotionally affected by that scene in the end of season 2 of The Mandalorian. It's like they just couldn't help themselves. The ones who wanted to DEI everything, the ones who all of those people are still none of those people got fired. They may not have been as active on X as they used to be, but so I think this is which part of the reason why there's such a lack of people really having an emotional response to this, because nothing's going to change because you didn't change. All you did change, you lopped off the head, and the two that's coming up behind her were okay with everything that she did. So, okay. All right. As a change of pace, I'll get to who they picked somebody to play Kratos. I think it's a TV show, and it wasn't Christopher Judge, which is interesting because he's still a big dude, and he probably could play that part. But you know what? I guess I will check out the article that talks about it. Where is it at? What did I put it at? King, Lego All right, this is also on. Okay, so actor named Ryan Hurst cast as Kratos in Prime Video's live action God of War adaptation. According to Deadline, Ryan Hurst has been cast as Kratos in the live action God of War. The 6'6" physically imposing actor doesn't have the right build to portray the Spartan warrior who fights gods. He has a history with the source material. Gamers will recognize Hurst from his BAFTA award nominated voice and motion capture performance as Thor in God of War Ragnarok. Okay. Fans are hoping that his familiarity with the franchise will allow him to step into the role of Kratos with all the gravitas they feel the character deserves, as opposed to the other actors who've often been floated for their part, like Dave Bautista and Dwayne Johnson. Hurst isn't simply a big name looking to build his brand. He's an actor with physicality for the part and familiarity with the mythology to bring Kratos to life. Production woes. Prime Video greenlit the God of War series the end of 2022 with the Wheel of Time's Rafe Judkins serving as showrunner. Yeah, that doesn't leave me with a lot of hope because from what I've heard about the Wheel of Times, I'm like I read those books a while ago, and even though those books have a definite strong woman feel to them, they still managed to even make it even more so than the books, which was crazy if you ever read the books. Oscar nominated writers Mark Ferguson and Hawk Otsby. You winning an award in Hollywood doesn't actually mean anything anymore. It's like saying that you are a New York Times best-selling author. All that stuff can be bought and paid. So yeah, and it's kind of hard to believe a lot of the these these things that used to hold weight don't hold as much weight once you realize that a lot of this stuff is fake. However, the will proved to be divisive, with BBC TV critic Scott Bryan calling it frustrating and saying it does that thing where it spends 5 minutes quickly explaining a world you don't know with terminology you have never heard or really understand. I mean, words some to the fans of God of War, yes, it was. With its expansive world inspired by Greek and Norse mythology. However, Judkins and his team left the project in 2024 when Sony Pictures TV and Amazon MGM Studios decided to take in a different creative direction. Ronald Moore was brought in, which is good. Uh, he got his start. One of his places he got his start in was D Space Nine, which was very good. And people really love Battlestar Galactica. I kind of got into it, kind of, but he brought in the showrunner and the second producer. PlayStation Production will closely involved to ensure the series remains close to the source material. Versus Kratos is first and most significant God of War. Oh, and the most significant God of War casting announcement. In addition to playing Thor in the God of War Ragnarok video game, he has been a significant presence in skills in film and television. Okay, Remember the Titans series, which already has a 2-season order. Wonder how they're gonna do this. I wonder if they're gonna do like the first game and then the second one, because there is a little bit of a time skip between like Atreus does get older, so hmm. He skipped more than a year. So I don't know, maybe the first 2 seasons are just the first game. Show continues, more casting. Many fans see casting of Ryan Hurst as Kratos as a sign that God of War is moving in the right direction. What are the comments? Okay, left side. Let's see. Firstly, Rona Witcher, then Halo. Okay. I may have missed some, but every video game, TV show is trash. Oh, it's live action made trash either. So okay. Hmm. Well, I don't know. Color me a skeptic. Hmm. I'll I'll get excited when there's something to be excited about. I didn't watch Sons of Anarchy, so I'm not that familiar with him. Again, I don't know why they didn't choose Christopher Judge. Maybe because he is, mm, I don't know. He's not necessarily Greek. I put it to you like that. Mm. All right. Well, my throat is killing me. I think I'm gonna watch this thing and maybe look at talk about the Tomb Raider thing and then call it a night because I keep having it clear my throat. I don't know why. All right, so let's do a reaction to some news on the Flash. Okay, so I can find this. They got some news that Netflix is going to commit to a 45-day window in terms of how long they're going to have movies out. It's like it's kind of interesting news, but like corporations will tell you anything and then change their mind once they have the thing that they're trying to get. So it is very easy for them to say that they're going to do something, and then once they buy it, it's like, oh well, we determined that financially it's not feasible for us to do this. So it's not like it would behoove them to not lie. So I don't know how big a story that is. All right. All right. So the Flash, James Gunn responds to demands that Grant Gustin play the DCU Scarlet Speedster. He was on a podcast a while back saying that while he was burnt out at the end of the uh the last season for the Flash, that he would be inclined to return if the script was right and you know I don't know if everything. The bad thing about that TV show is that it stopped becoming about the Flash and it became more and more about the people around the Flash, and he was just like a secondary character in his own show. It became all about mostly about his wife, then it became about his kids, then like you had all the other sidekick characters that came and left. It's like the Flash is he is on the Justice League, but for the most part, he is a solo by himself character who doesn't have a super team around him. You know, he made a good enough Flash, but you could have made a show mostly about that. If they would have kind of left it to the size of Team Flash was when it first started, when it was just like the main science guy and the two sidekicks, that would have worked. They you know, if you had better writers, but it's also the CW, so it just like every other CW superhero show just completely fell off the cliff after about the third or fourth season. It's been a couple of years since The Flash concluded his 9-season run on the CW as the network looked to move away from pricey scripted dramas. You don't even hear about the CW anymore. Their Arrowverse TV shows fell one by one, with the Scarlet Speedster lucky to get a proper ending after Batwoman and the Legends of Tomorrow were unceremoniously canceled. Excuse me. Yeah, the Legends of Tomorrow just became a show about a bunch of lesbians flying around on a time ship. Completely not what it was intended to be when it first started. It just turned into this drama filled like soap opera in space. So even though some of the characters were interesting, they just got rid of most of those and they just started adding typical CW type stuff, and it just got increasingly terrible over the years. Grant Gustin did an excellent job as Barry Allen in the eyes of most fans, and the positive aspects of his performance shown even brighter after whatever it was that Ezra Miller did in the Flash. Yeah, he that was the weirdest. Like Ezra Miller had the weirdest Flash run I've ever seen. Holding a beat in development when it comes to a movie featuring a Scarlet Speedster. We don't know that means for Barry Allen. The thing about the Flash is the Flash is kind of like Superman. It's like the fight when he's fighting people, he's so powerful that the fight shouldn't last that long. So I like it's rather difficult to make a compelling movie around that. Like you could do the origin, but then what? He can run at light speed. So it's like by the time if you're pointing a weapon at him, by the time you squeeze the trigger, he could run around and beat you up and all that stuff and tie you up. And then like, so how, I don't know how you can write a movie about that. So it'll probably work if he's part of the Justice League, but his own beyond an origin story, I don't know. Okay, bounded to another weird fan question on Threads. Who's trying to write if the Umbrella Academy star Ellen Page? I'm not calling her Elliot. Chosen to play the Flash in the place of Gustin. That's the first we heard about the actress's possible DCU casting. Weighing in the manner tomorrow, filmmaker said, "I keep being told people are going to write over things, but I am as of yet to see a riot. Love Grant, by the way. Don't know what Ellen has to do with anything. Yeah, is another trans fan casting. Cropped up again because photos of him with blonde Barry Allen like hair recently went viral on social media. And for what it's worth, the Arrowverse alum previously confirmed that he's spoken to DC Studios co-CEO James Gunn, but not about the fastest man alive. We've never talked about the Flash. We talked just like I'm a huge Superman fan, and I've always been a Superman fan since I was a kid. So I'm really excited about the movie, and I'm excited about David Cornsweet's casting. I'm excited to see what James Gunn does with it. And so I think at one point, maybe a couple of different times, we've DM'd about Superman. We literally never talked about the Flash. I'm just excited that he's doing Superman. So I have a video of someone kind of talking about this. So let's get to that.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. James Gunn and Grant Gustin were recently posting about the new DCU Flash as part of some larger things that are happening with the DC movies right now. James Gunn also gave some new updates on his DCU Batman for Brave and the Bold, the new Wonder Woman, the Superman 2 Man of Tomorrow movie. So we'll break it all down and how this new Flash fits into the DCU movie plan in the next few years, since he's already revealed what the next batch of movies and TV shows is going to be the next couple of years and which new characters they're meant to feature. And for those of you that have been wanting to see the new version of DCU Darkseid, we also just found out that they're going to be casting him for another new TV show that I'll talk about during the video too.
Why are you putting Darkseid? Dude. They made all those plans, made that huge announcements, and most of those aren't being done. So why should I have any hope of anything that you're announcing right now being done?
We also have the Super Bowl coming up, and we'll probably get some kind of trailer for either Supergirl or Lanterns or both. I just did teaser trailer videos for both of those a little while ago, so I will link those at the end of this. The whole reason why everyone's going crazy about the new DCU Flash last week was Grant Gustin started posting a bunch of pictures of himself with dyed blonde hair in front of posters of the Flash. Doesn't this look a little familiar? If you watch the Flash TV show, you probably instantly recognize this, like Leonardo DiCaprio meme pointing at the screen. The one right above him is from The Flash Season 2, when Zoom was still pretending to be Jay Garrick, and they were parodying this classic Flash comic book where Barry Allen met Jay Garrick for the first time in the comics.
Also gonna be just a coincidence.
The other poster that's cut off right next to him is the Supergirl Flash crossover, the first Supergirl Flash crossover, because they did that.
Well, it kind of makes sense that he would have these in his garage. and he just kind of posted a picture of him in front of these things. Not everything has a deep meaning.
Multiple times in the Flash TV show. Since the Flash TV show ended and James Gunn rebooted the DCEU into the DCU, pretty much everybody's wanted to see Grant Gustin come back in the DCU as one of the new Flashes, even if he's not going to be the new main Flash that James Gunn puts on his version of the Justice League. Based on all the Easter eggs that we saw during the Superman movie and the current DCU TV show so far, I still think that that's going to wind up being Wally West, not Barry Allen, but we will talk about that as we get more Easter eggs. And James Gunn has also spoken many times about what a big fan he is of Grant Gustin and the Flash TV show itself.
And as we all know, James Gunn just does stuff that James Gunn likes. So Crypto is in the Superman movie because James Gunn has a dog that looks legit like that dog. That's why he chose the dog that he chose instead of one that actually looks like Crypto, because that's his dog. And the reason why he wants to go with Damian instead of Dick Grayson is because Damian is his favorite Robin. Even though it makes no sense, because you went with a young Superman. Superman and Bruce Batman are the same age. I don't know why you want to go with a grizzled old Batman when you cast a young Superman. If you make but I guess that kind of would clash with the Batman, because, and this is why I don't get why he just doesn't do this. Just make the Batman in your universe. He will be around the same age as Carnsweb. Both of them are still trying to figure out their place in being a superhero. Like Superman is trying to go from being a naive guy, and like Bruce is trying to go from being an overly dark guy, and they're trying to find some balance in the middle someplace. Then you can do Dick Grayson. You can have someone who will be young. Eventually he can get old enough to do the whole, so you can do like the whole Dick Grayson arc, and eventually later on you could bring in all the other ones. So then you could actually recreate the Bat family. But said James Gunn likes Damian, so.
And then was in the, Grant Gustin, the great Grant Gustin, great guy, his TV show, The Flash. And then it's appeared throughout different media in the world of DC, including a little bit in the Superman movie.
Right after this was going down, James Gunn also responded to a fan about Grant Gustin and the Flash coming back. He was mostly joking about people rioting if he didn't bring Grant Gustin back in the DCU, saying, "I keep being told people are going to riot over things, but I am as of yet to see a riot. Love Grant, by the way." He also joked with another commenter about not knowing whether or not Grant Gustin was dyeing his hair blonde. Like, why would I know whether or not he's going to dye his hair blonde? Just trying to pretend like he doesn't know what's going on. Obviously, he knows everything that he's doing because he's the one that's making all the plans. But I do think that he's being honest in this fact, because Grant Gustin later chimed in reacting to all the new DCU Flash posts, saying that, "As anyone knows, I will always welcome the opportunity to play the Flash again." So there's your confirmation that if James Gunn does want him in a movie or TV show, he will come back and do it. Then he says, "Having said that, my hair is long and blonde for a project that has nothing to do with the Flash or any other superhero. Love the energy, though." Like, he really enjoys people posting about him coming back as the Flash.
Yeah, he was taking a picture in which looked like his garage. And if I was in a TV show for 9 years, I would probably have a lot of paraphernalia in my house, some of which will probably be in my garage. So, yeah.
And even though it is a little sus that he posted this while he was sitting right underneath both of his Flash TV show posters, I do think that he's being honest for the most part. And he really,
Yeah, as you can see, he was probably working on, because this looks like a squat rack. So he was working out. He decided to take a selfie for whatever reason. Yeah,
he was sitting right underneath both of his Flash TV show posters. I do think that he's being honest for the most part. And he really did just grow his hair out and dye it for another movie or play that he's working on. Since the Flash TV show ended a couple years ago, he's just been doing way more non-DC projects in general. Over the past couple of years, he has posted a lot about The Flash and reacted to fans asking him to come back when he's at conventions.
2024. I made it.
He was even posting memes about the Flash Future newspaper from season 1, episode 1, because a while ago we had passed the date on the Future newspaper in real life. As some of you have probably seen, there have been several Easter eggs for the new main DCU Flash and the other members of the Flash family, multiple Flashes in the Superman movie and the other recent DCU TV shows. Based on reports from last year, the next big Flash character we're actually supposed to see on screens in the next couple of years, or at least the ones that have leaked out that we found out about, are in the upcoming True Crime series that people are calling DC Crime. But James Gunn recently said that that wasn't the actual title of the show, so we don't know what the actual title is yet, but it's supposed to use Daily Planet characters who will be investigating crimes and trying to find big villains from the comics, and they'll be using that to introduce more DCU villains from the comics. The reason why we're talking about Flash
Why would anybody want to watch that?
characters so much, the new versions of the Flash, is because season 1 will revolve around Flash villains. It sounds like there'll be a couple other villains, but the real big one will be Gorilla Grodd in live action. You can kind of see James Gunn's logic
They already did Gorilla Grodd.
here too. He wanted to wait a little beat after the Flash movie with Ezra Miller came out to just let the Flash go fallow in live action before he slow rolled him back into the DCU as he rebooted everything. Eobard Thawne, Reverse Flash, waiting in the wings to come back too.
Yo, what the hell is that?
That's my cue to leave.
If you didn't watch Creature Commando Season 1 when it originally came out, I did episode videos for that, so I'll link those below in the descriptions. But James Gunn introduced his DCU Grodd during that. But the way that he was introduced in that was an alternate timeline flash forward, which the TV show then walked back, like erased by the finale. So it was the same scene where they introduced all the new Batman, Wonder Woman, the new version of the Flash, Booster Gold, a ton of other big Justice League characters. So a lot of people were pointing out that that technically wasn't canon anymore because they walked back the twist at the end of the show, like they prevented that future from happening. But the new Superman spin-offs that James Gunn announced are meant to be more legit live-action HBO big shows, and it's part of a larger anthology episode plan to introduce more big villains from the comics to the live-action DCU so they can go on to other big movies, like another Flash movie in other big movies down the road. Grant Gustin's Flash TV show also used the same formula in the Arrowverse, but it also had the benefit of the other Arrowverse shows to do some of the legwork because there are so many different characters. Their budgets were always pretty small compared to like the big HBO DC shows they're doing now, so there were only so many characters they could introduce per season. But if you didn't see the news, what's going on with Gorilla Grodd in the DCU is he's supposed to debut on the Jimmy Olsen Superman TV show. It's going to be an HBO crime anthology show, like a crime drama theme, more like the...
Why would you have a Flash villain in a Superman sidekick TV show that... Okay. Who's going to watch this? I'm like, that does not sound interesting. You're doing a crime anthology in the Superman universe, but it's like, is Superman going to be in it? This makes like no sense.
Penguin, where Jimmy Olsen hosts an anthology show and investigates different DCU villains case by case. That was why you were seeing all the jokes about Darkseid in the DCU being introduced on the Jimmy Olsen show, because Darkseid in the comics was introduced in a Jimmy Olsen comic book back in the day.
Ready the Armada. We will use the old ways.
The funny thing about this is that James Gunn has also since confirmed that Darkseid is also going to be introduced in the DCU, at least in animation first, on the New Gods TV show. That'll be basically the Mr. Miracle series based on his comic book, but Darkseid is a big part of that. So we will get DCU Darkseid, but not in the way people are expecting, like live action. They have not said who's going to be playing this new version of Darkseid in the DCU, but...
All right, well, look, I could have said the same thing about the Penguin. Like, who's going to watch that? But that was really good, so...
Christopher Judge, Kratos himself, said that he would love to voice the new version of Darkseid. I would totally be down for the Christopher Judge version of Darkseid in the DCU. But it does sound like the show will be kind of like a true crime video podcast, like America's Most Wanted or Unsolved Mysteries, and Jimmy Olsen just hosts it himself and investigates different DC villains. And that's how they uncover really major DC villains in live action that then go on to other big movies like.
That doesn't sound entertaining. Just people just want like basic superhero stuff. It doesn't have to be that complicated. This seems unnecessarily complicated.
Gorilla Grodd would go on to like a new Flash movie in a couple years, and so on and so forth with the other big villains that they introduce. What we know right now about Gorilla Grodd inside the DCU, just based on Creature Commandos, is that he had been in league with Princess Rostovik with an upgraded version of his telepathic crown from the comics, like he was King Grodd already. But because that was meant to be a possible future that Cersei was showing them, which they stopped from coming to pass, they killed the princess at the end of the show, it means that that never wound up happening. So they didn't really explain what Gorilla Grodd was doing in the present day of the DCU during that. It sounds like that's what they're going to deal with during this Superman spin-off TV show. And because they are doing so many Flash villains now on these TV shows, James Gunn didn't say anything about who's going to be the main Flash during the actual show.
Again, why are you doing all that? Superman has his own rogues gallery. You don't need, like, why?
The Creature Commandos Flash Forward implies
most of his villains don't really go outside of Central City. I think that's where the Flash is. Like, yeah, most of them don't leave that city. They don't really go to Metropolis or Gotham because they have their own villains there and they kind of stay in their own lane.
It might be an older Wally West, meaning Barry Allen would be a little bit older and Jay Garrick would be very old. But it is always possible that he starts with a center point of Barry Allen and it's a younger Wally West in the universe. There were just a lot of clues that made it seem like his eventual Justice League will feature Wally West as the Flash on that team, not Barry Allen. And it'll be more like the animated version of the Justice League team. There were actually a couple of Flash and Flash-related characters like tied directly to the Flash in that Hall of Justice mural of all the early metahumans that people have found out about on planet Earth. It was basically meant to show you the history of metahumans as far as the public knew about them. Didn't mean there were secret metahumans out there, like you don't see Vandal Savage on here, but these are mostly meant to be heroes that used to be metahumans at one point. Some of them are probably still alive, though.
Because we are also of the cloth.
The really big ones were Max Mercury in his Maxwell Crandall Quicksilver form, then Max Mercury also in his Whip Whirlwind form, and the Libby Lawrence Liberty Bell, who I think they might say is the mother of Jesse Quick in the DCU at some point. There are many, many characters up there. I've already done a full video breakdown of every single one. Some of them are super deep cuts, so I'll link it below in the description. James Gunn also recently posted about the new version of Batman that he's casting for DCU Batman Brave and the Bold, the other DCU movies, the new version of Wonder Woman, and some other upcoming things, basically confirming theories that he wasn't done with the Batman Brave and the Bold script yet. And even though they've probably been screen testing actors for the new version of Batman, he's not going to announce anything or start talking about the new DCU Batman until after the Batman 2 comes out, Matt Reeves, Robert Pattinson's new movie. What he said about
He should just make him the Batman of his universe. They make it so much easier.
the new DCU version of Wonder Woman is that he wasn't casting her for the Man of Tomorrow movie, but he is screen testing actresses for a big role and some lesser roles too. But he didn't say who that new female character is going to be. People just assumed that it was going to be Wonder Woman, but it sounds like it's going to be someone else. James Gunn is known to use a lot of lawyer speak and very slippery with the way that he talks about stuff too. So it doesn't necessarily mean that Wonder Woman won't get referenced during the Man of Tomorrow movie. It just sounds like this female character specifically that people are talking about is not the Wonder Woman character. Doesn't mean that she won't be in the background somewhere or won't get mentioned. Also, Batman is supposed to be mentioned during Man of Tomorrow, but he's not supposed to appear on screen. So like they're not casting someone as the new DCU Batman for Man of Tomorrow. Everybody post all your reactions in the comments below. Let me know what you want them to do with Grant.
I don't know. I think it was a mistake picking James Gunn to be the head of DC, because I think they needed someone who was not so much in love with their own thought process. And it's just like, it's the same issue that I have with Dave Filoni. Dave Filoni the same way. They just love what they love, and that don't necessarily jives with what the customers want, you know. All right. I was gonna talk about the new Tomb Raider, but all we got is a picture of Sophie Turner as Lara Croft. I don't really like she doesn't look like Tomb Raider to me, and it's like so. All right, well, anyone who checks this out, thank you, and hopefully my compatriots will join me next week. And on that note, I'm out later.